Hello there. I'm 65 years old, and let me tell you something. I avoid people now. And you know what? It's not because I'm bitter, and it's not because I'm lonely. It's because I've learned something that took me decades to understand. Not every relationship, not every invitation, not every connection is worth the price you pay. Now that might sound harsh, but let me explain. When you reach this stage of life, something incredible happens. You start to see things differently. The way you value time changes. The way you view relationships changes. And most importantly, the way you value yourself finally starts to make sense. For years, I was the type of person who showed up for everyone. Friends, family, neighbors, you name it. I was always there, always available. And for a while, it felt good. It felt like I was being the person I was supposed to be, the reliable one, the helpful one. But over time, I started to notice something. I was exhausted. And here's the truth. It wasn't just physical exhaustion. It was deeper. I realized I was spending so much time trying to keep up with others' expectations that I was losing pieces of myself along the way. So I decided to take a step back, not out of anger, not out of resentment, but out of respect for myself, for my time, for my peace. In this video, I'm going to share the life lessons that led me to this point. I'll take you through the powerful shifts that come with age, the way time feels like a treasure, the way relationships naturally evolve, and how solitude has become a source of joy, not something to fear. And let me tell you this. If any of this resonates with you, if you've ever felt the same pull towards simplicity and peace, then you are not alone. This isn't about isolating yourself. This is about honoring your life. It's about making intentional choices, choices that bring joy, align with your values, and protect the precious moments you have left. So take a deep breath with me. Let's pause, let's reflect, and let's dive into this journey together. By the end of this video, you'll see that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's the most loving thing you can do. Are you ready? Because I am. Let's begin. The new value of time. You know, there's something about turning 65 that changes the way you look at time. It's not just a number on a clock anymore. It's not just what's next on my to-do list. Time becomes a treasure. One that you can't waste, one that you can't get back. When we were younger, didn't it feel like we had all the time in the world? We'd spend hours on things that didn't really matter. Long, shallow conversations, relationships that gave us nothing in return, obligations we said yes to just because we felt guilty. But now, every second feels different. Every moment holds more weight. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had a morning where you just sat there with your coffee, looked out the window and felt the beauty of the sunlight, not rushing to be anywhere, not thinking about what you should be doing, just being? That's how I feel about time now. It's a gift, a precious, fleeting gift, and I'm not willing to squander it anymore. You see, this isn't about fear. It's not about counting the years and thinking, oh no, how much time do I have left? It's about wisdom. It's about realizing that every choice we make has value. Every hour we give to something is an hour taken away from something else. Here's what I've learned. Not everyone and not everything deserves a slice of my time. That might sound harsh, but it's the truth. If it doesn't bring me peace, if it doesn't align with my values, or if it doesn't bring me joy, then it doesn't belong in my life anymore. Let me give you an example. I used to say yes to every invitation, a party here, a dinner there, even if I knew I wouldn't enjoy it. Why? Because I felt like I had to. Now I've learned to ask myself, does this ADD to my life or does it take something away? If the answer is no, I let it go. And let me tell you, simplifying my life in this way has been liberating. A heartfelt conversation over tea with someone I truly care about means so much more than being at a crowded gathering where I feel invisible. Every choice I make now is intentional. Every moment is savored. I'm not rushing anymore, not filling my days just to feel productive. I'm letting myself enjoy the quiet moments, the ones I used to overlook. So here's my advice. Protect your time, treasure it. Fill it with purpose, with people who matter, and with things that make your soul light up. Because when you start treating time like the treasure it is, your whole life shifts. It becomes simpler, more meaningful, more beautiful, and trust me, it's worth it. The evolution of relationships. They're one of life's greatest gifts and one of its greatest challenges. And as we grow older, we start to see them in a whole new light. Let me tell you something I've learned. Not every relationship is meant to last a lifetime, and that's okay. When I was younger, I believed that if a relationship started, it had to be nurtured forever. I thought it was my responsibility to keep it alive no matter what. I remembered every birthday, attended every gathering, and reached out even when I felt exhausted. I thought being there for everyone was what made me a good person. But over time, I realized something. Not all relationships are equal. Some relationships nurture you. They fill your heart, your soul. But others, they drain you. They take, and no matter how much you give, it's never enough. This understanding didn't come easily. It took years of experiences, some wonderful, some painful, to see the truth. I've been hurt by people I trusted. I've been let down by those I cared deeply for. And I've drifted apart from family members whose lives just grew in different directions. For a long time, I took those losses personally. I would ask myself, what did I do wrong? Could I have tried harder? Was it my fault? But now I see things differently. People change. I've changed. You've changed. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself and for others is to let go. One of the most liberating lessons I've learned is to focus on relationships that feel mutual. A healthy relationship is one where both people give and receive. It's about balance. Does this person support you as much as you support them? Do they listen as much as they speak? Do they bring light into your life, or do they take it away? At this stage in life, my circle has grown smaller, but it's also become richer. The friends and family who remain are the ones who truly matter, the ones who accept me for who I am, the ones who bring joy to my days. I no longer waste energy trying to hold on to connections that don't align with the person I am today. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't moments of nostalgia. Sometimes I think about old friends or family members I've lost touch with. And yes, I miss them. But instead of regret, I feel gratitude. Those relationships were part of my journey. They shaped me. They taught me lessons. And while they may not be part of my present, they'll always be a part of my story. So here's my advice. Don't hold on out of guilt. Don't stay in relationships that no longer serve you just because you feel obligated. Instead, focus on the ones that bring you peace. Let go of the rest. Because when you do, something beautiful happens. You find yourself surrounded by authenticity, by love, by understanding, and by the kind of connections that truly make life worth living. And isn't that what we all deserve? Relationships that don't just fill our time, but fill our hearts. The fragility of trust. It's one of the most precious things we can share with another person. But here's what life has taught me. It's also one of the most fragile. When I was younger, I trusted easily. I wanted to believe in the goodness of people, in their intentions. I gave my time, my loyalty, and my heart freely. And don't get me wrong, that openness brought me many beautiful connections. But it also led to some of the deepest wounds I've ever experienced. There's something about being hurt by someone you trusted that stays with you. Maybe it was a friend who cared more about what you could do for them than who you were. Maybe it was a family member whose choices created a distance that you couldn't bridge. Or maybe it was someone who broke a promise, a small promise to them, but a big one to you. Each of these moments leaves a mark. And over time, those marks change the way you see trust. They don't make you bitter, but they do make you careful. Now, when someone new enters my life, my first thought isn't, how can I connect with this person? Instead, it's, what are their intentions? It's not an easy way to live, but it's necessary. And yet, here's the thing I've learned. Trust isn't just about other people. It's also about trusting yourself. How many times have you had a gut feeling that something wasn't right? A little voice inside you saying, this doesn't feel good. But instead of listening, you brushed it off. You told yourself you were overthinking, being paranoid. I've been there. I ignored the signs. I stayed in relationships, friendships, even situations where I knew something was wrong because I didn't trust my own instincts. Not anymore. Now, if something doesn't feel right, I listen. I trust myself enough to walk away from relationships that feel toxic, no matter how long they've been a part of my life. That doesn't mean trust is impossible. Far from it. It's just different now. It's more intentional. There are still moments when people surprise me in the best way. A kind stranger who goes out of their way to help. A neighbor who checks in during a storm. A friend who shows up when I least expect it. Those moments remind me that trust can be rebuilt. But here's the key. It has to be earned. It's about setting boundaries, not walls. It's about letting trust grow gradually, not giving it away freely. And it's about surrounding yourself with people who are consistent, kind, and respectful. At this stage of life, protecting your trust is a form of self-care. It's not about closing yourself off. It's about valuing yourself enough to be selective. So if you've found yourself more guarded as you've gotten older, I want you to know it's okay. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wisdom. Trust is a treasure, yes, but it's a treasure that deserves to be shared only with those who truly honor it. And when you find those people, hold on to them tightly, because those are the connections that make life rich, safe, and truly meaningful. The changing world and the power of simplicity. Have you noticed how much the world has changed? It's impossible not to. Life today feels faster, busier, and louder than ever before. Everything moves at lightning speed. Texts, emails, notifications. And yet, somehow, it feels like something essential has been lost along the way. I grew up in a world that felt warmer, simpler. Neighbors weren't just the people who lived next door. They were friends. You didn't need an invitation to drop by for a cup of coffee. Families gathered just because they wanted to, not because they had to. Conversations were long and heartfelt, full of laughter and stories, not rushed or squeezed between glances at a phone screen. And now, everything feels different. People are busy, too busy chasing success, managing endless to-do lists, and keeping up with the latest trends. Even when we're physically together, it's like our minds are somewhere else. Scrolling, planning, distracted. Technology has made so many things easier, hasn't it? I mean, I love that I can video call my grandchildren or reconnect with an old friend on social media. But at the same time, it's created these invisible barriers. A text can never replace the feeling of sitting across from someone, hearing their voice, seeing their expressions. Even family time feels more strained now. Physical distance and busy schedules have turned what used to be regular gatherings into rare occasions. And when we do get together, it's hard to compete with the constant buzz of notifications pulling everyone away. Sometimes I miss the ease of just being with people. No interruptions. no distractions, just sharing a moment, fully present. And here's the paradox. For all the connectivity that technology brings, many of us feel more isolated than ever. We're connected to everyone, yet often truly connected to no one. That's why I've made a choice. I've chosen to step away from the rush, to protect the simplicity that still exists, even in today's complex world. It's not about rejecting modern life or resisting change. Every era has its challenges and every generation adapts, but for me, it's about choosing where to place my energy. Instead of scrolling endlessly, I spend more time outdoors, walking in the park, tending to my garden, or simply watching the clouds drift by. Instead of keeping up with every news update, I focus on the stories that really matter to me. And instead of filling my days with noise, I seek the quiet moments, the ones that bring me peace. I've also found that the best connections are the ones that happen when you slow down. A heartfelt conversation with a friend over tea, sitting with family, reminiscing about old times, or even just sharing a silent moment with someone you love, knowing you're fully present together. So if you feel overwhelmed by the pace of today's world, let me tell you, it's okay to slow down. It's okay to choose simplicity over complexity, because here's the truth. The world will keep spinning, whether you're rushing to keep up or not. And when you choose to step back to focus on what's real, what's meaningful, what brings you joy, you'll find something priceless. You'll find peace. And in a world this busy, isn't peace the most beautiful thing we can have? Embracing solitude. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly sat in silence? Not the kind of silence where you're scrolling on your phone or waiting for something to happen, but real silence. The kind where it's just you, your thoughts, and the quiet hum of the world around you. It's not something many people talk about, but I've come to see solitude as one of life's greatest gifts. Not a punishment, not something to fear, but a source of peace and renewal. When I was younger, solitude felt like loneliness. There was an ache in the quiet, a longing for someone to fill the space, to bring noise and movement into my life. But as the years have passed, I've learned something profound. Solitude and loneliness are not the same. Loneliness is that emptiness we feel when we long for connection, but can't find it. It's painful, and it can weigh heavy on your heart. But solitude? Solitude is a choice. It's a deliberate act of stepping back from the noise, the chaos, the demands of the world, and saying, this moment is for me. And in that choice, there's a beauty that's hard to describe. I've found clarity in solitude, answers to questions I didn't even know I was asking. In the quiet moments, I've reflected on my life. Instead of dwelling on regrets or missed opportunities, I've focused on the lessons I've learned and the memories that bring me joy. Sitting on the porch with a warm cup of tea, feeling the wind rustle through the trees, watching the sun sink slowly below the horizon, painting the sky with colors that take your breath away. These moments don't just pass the time, they enrich it. Solitude has also helped me appreciate the relationships I still have. When I spend time with loved ones now, I'm fully present. I'm not distracted, not rushing to the next thing. Instead, I savor the moments we share because I know how precious they are. But perhaps the most surprising lesson solitude has taught me is how to value myself. You see, we live in a world that tells us our worth is tied to how many people we know, how full our schedules are, how many parties or gatherings we're invited to. But that's a lie. Your worth doesn't come from the size of your social circle. It comes from knowing who you are, from understanding what makes you happy, from finding peace in your own company. So if you've ever feared being alone, I want you to hear this. Solitude isn't something to run from. It's something to embrace. It's in those quiet moments that you'll hear the voice you've been drowning out, the one that reminds you of what truly matters, of what makes your soul feel alive. The more you embrace solitude, the more you'll see that it's a source of strength. It's where you let go of distractions, pressures, and expectations. It's where you find balance. And in the stillness, you might just discover a deeper sense of fulfillment than you ever thought possible. So let the world rush around you. Let the noise carry on. You can sit in the quiet, sip your tea, and simply be. Because in that moment, you'll realize you're not alone, you're with yourself. And that is a truly beautiful thing. My friends, life has a way of moving in chapters, doesn't it? And at 65, I've come to realize that this chapter, the one I'm in right now, isn't about endings. It's about beginnings. It's about stepping into a new phase of life with gratitude, peace, and a clearer understanding of what truly matters. When we're younger, life feels like a race. We're always running, chasing goals, meeting expectations, trying to prove something to the world, and, let's be honest, to ourselves. We live with this urgency, as if the future holds all the answers, all the joy. But here's the truth that aging has taught me. The present is all we really have. This chapter isn't about rushing. It's about slowing down and truly savoring life. It's about noticing the little things, the sunlight streaming through the window in the morning, the sound of birds chirping, the laughter of a loved one. These moments may seem small, but they carry a depth, a richness that we often overlook when we're too busy chasing the next big thing. Looking back, I see my life as a tapestry, woven together with threads of joy and pain, triumph and failure, love and loss. Every thread has its place. Every experience, no matter how difficult, has shaped me into the person I am today. And here's what I've learned. This chapter of life isn't about clinging to the past. It's about honoring it, acknowledging the lessons it taught me, the strength it gave me, and the memories that still warm my heart. But this chapter isn't just about reflection, it's also about possibility. You might think, at 65, what's left to discover? Let me tell you, plenty. There's still time to create, to learn, to grow, to try new hobbies, nurture a garden, explore places you've never been, or simply spend time appreciating the world around you. What makes this stage of life so beautiful is the freedom it brings. The freedom to say no to things that drain you, and yes to what fills your soul. The courage to live authentically without fear of judgment or the pressure to meet others' expectations. And the most important lesson of all, that simply being is enough. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone anymore. You've lived, you've learned, and now it's time to just be peaceful, present, and unapologetically you. If you're in this chapter of life too, let me encourage you to embrace it. Let go of the noise and the rush. Focus on what brings you joy. Surround yourself with the people and moments that truly matter, because life doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful. Sometimes the most peaceful and fulfilling moments come when we stop chasing and start appreciating. This is your chapter. It's a time for simplicity, for gratitude, for living boldly in the ways that bring you happiness. So, hold it close. Honor the journey that brought you here, and write the rest of your story with love, intention, and joy. After all, the best chapters are the ones where we finally realize that the story has always been enough.